Hey, good morning, Gerson. This is a quick demo video for you for your High Ground Elite by SP Sabers and Props. This is installed with a Proffie, and it's also got Sean's Crystal Chamber add-on. It's a 2-button setup, so your 2 switches are located in the clamp card, right? Your front or your top switch here will be your power. Your back, when you press on it, will be your auxiliary. You've got 2 sets actually of these Carl Chen Neopixel connectors, and I'll show you the second here in a second. Okay, this is your chassis retention. So what you want to do is just kind of back that up a little bit, that big one. Back it up a little bit. You don't have to take it out, just back it up till it's loose. Come over here and unscrew your pommel. When you take your pommel off, you'll notice there is a spacer inside of here. Just go ahead and leave that in there. I mean, I don't think you could take it out anyway because I did glue it in. It's to keep the chassis in place and then also keep the speaker off of that little button head screw in there. All right, so you don't get any sound distortion. But you'll want to back that out and then take your chassis and carefully pull it out. Do it with 2 hands here. Pull it right out. Put this off to the side. And then this is your chassis with your crystal chamber add-on. This can be a little bit tricky to wire up, but it's all good to go. You do have 2 quartz crystals here. This top one is going to mirror the blade. All right, so it's going to do anything that your main blade does, and that's your second Carl Chen Neopixel connector right here. Focus on it right there. All right, so you got that one, and then you've got this crystal down here. They're both real quartz, but this one is wired independently. So it will do different things just depending on how you program it. I've got your sound font on here for now. There's a copy of the config file on your SD card, so that's your OB4 sound font. You can see what I did there. So each font will have 2 blade styles. The first being your blade, or in this case, your blade and your first crystal, and then your second blade style being the second crystal down here. All right, you've got your 2 tactile switches right here for power and auxiliary. All right, coming down here is your Proffie board. So your Proffie board's over here. It is a snap fit down into the shelf. You will have to lift it up to get to your SD card and your micro USB. There's just barely any room in here to do anything. All right, so you'll pop it up like this, do what you want to do with your sound fonts, and then snap it back down. When you're ready to snap it back down, I would put a little bit of E6000 on the sides of the board and then put it in place and let it sit. It will hold the board there nice and firm. And then if you ever want to pull it back up, you can do that with E6000. It's pretty malleable. All right, I didn't do that here because I figured you'd get in here and add some sound fonts when you get it. You also have a removable battery set up here. So this takes a removable 18650 that I'll send with the Saber. And then a fully enclosed 28mm Smuggler's Outpost Elite speaker. All right, so let's throw our battery in. Please remember the spring side is for the negative side of your battery. Do not put your battery in backwards. I cannot stress that enough. All right, so we'll put a battery in here. And you can see I've got your second crystals just kind of pulsing. And it is on a timer, so if we don't turn on the Saber in about 40 seconds, this will turn off so it doesn't kill your battery. But if you come over here and hit power, that fires up the secondary crystal, right, because it matches your blade. This second one goes solid, or the first one goes solid. It does react to auxiliary button being pressed. And you have twist off. All right. You'll notice on your chassis you have this groove right here. If I can zoom in on it, or focus in on it rather. There's a groove right here. That is for your chassis retention knob, which is right here. So when you go to put this in, make sure that's lined up. Make sure your switches are lined up with your control box. After doing it a few times, you'll be able to do it pretty quickly, but push it in all the way as far as it will go. We'll come over here and we'll lock it down, and then we can put on your pommel. All right, just screw your pommel all the way down. A few threads, no biggie, but go ahead and lock it down. We'll turn this off. Come over here and hit power. Now your LEDs and your emitter are firing up. It's a nice smooth swing right here. Auxiliary in the back. got twist off. All right, so when you want to put a blade in, you have to come up here. You want to hold the emitter because you don't want to unscrew any of this, right? You only want to unscrew this piece right here. So I usually just hold everything right here, untwist the top. What helps also is when you go to put this piece back on that I'm taking off right now, do not crank it as tight as you can. If you do that, and then when you go back to try to loosen it, you're going to probably take this entire assembly apart. You have to take this off in order to get to your 2 blade retention screws. So if I can, again, sometimes my camera likes to think about it for a second, but you've got a blade retention screw right here, and then 180 degrees from that, you've got another one right here. So if I hold it like that, you can see them both, right? What we'll want to do is we'll want to take this piece that we took off, take our blade. This is set up for a full-length blade, although I'm just using my test blade because it's easier for me to demo. But you'll want to take your blade, slide that piece up there a little bit like that. Come over here and drop that blade down into the socket, or into the emitter rather, and lock it down. Go ahead and we'll use both blade retention screws. This is a thin neck saber, so you're going to want to use both of them. All right. When you do that, after, you can drop that piece back down and then just carefully screw it down. So remember what I said on this piece. You just screw it in until it's nice and firm in there, but you don't want to be cranking on it. All right. So once you do all that, you've got your saber set up. You can come over here and hit power again. You've got a nice light up on your blade. Blaster bolt deflex is just tapping auxiliary. If you want blade lock up, you'll need to hold auxiliary down and hit the saber. You can almost see it right here, but you don't see it here, right? And the reason for that is it moves up and down your blade. So when you have this saber horizontal like this, your blade lockup will be closer to the middle of the blade. And then as you move it vertical like this, it kind of moves back down towards the tip of the blade, or towards the emitter. Okay. This just has one sound font on it for now, but typically if you'd want to change sound fonts, you just tap auxiliary.
Obiwan Kenobi.
Right. And then this also has a soundtrack. So to play your soundtrack, it's a long press on the power when the saber's off. All right. And do that same thing to turn it off. Just a long press on the power when the saber's off, right? And we'll go ahead and we'll break it back down. So again, because I didn't tighten this very much, it's very easy to take off. All right. Just unscrew that all the way. I'm going to take it off my blade. You may or may not be able to do that on a full-length blade, but on my test blade, it's pretty easy to do. We can come back over here and loosen both of these blade retention screws just a little bit. Make sure that those blade retention screws are never in popping out of these threads when you try to put that ring on, because if they are, you can lock this in, all right, and that'll be a bad deal. So if you're ever screwing this in and you feel like it's not going, don't force it. Take it back off. Take a look at your blade retention screws and see what they're at. That's probably what's going on there. All right. But when we're done, again, come over here and take our pummel off. We'll loosen up our chassis retention a little bit and then pull our chassis right out. And then when you want to take this battery out, you do it from the positive side, which is right by your crystal chamber. All right. You should be able to do it with your finger just like that. But that is basically your high ground elite with crystal chamber. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll try to get this out in the mail to you today, but definitely by tomorrow, depending on when I hear from you. All right, thanks.